All right, everyone, well, welcome back, and we are very luckily joined once again by the great coach, Eric Nicksick. So, Eric, thank you very much for joining us today. Getting straight into it, Eric, the last time we all had a chat, we talked about how people seem to forget that Aljamain was an elite fighter after the first Peter Yan fight. And clearly, when the three of us are together, we can all predict the future, as Aljo displayed his skill set in the rematch. How proud were you of Aljo's performance in that rematch? And how do you see his matchup with TJ Dillashaw going down?
Well, first and foremost, I was very proud of him, not only for what he went through, I think, just kind of coming back from the way that he received the belt. It was a lot of backlash, man, a lot of, you had to deal with a lot of shit. We all did. I mean, my inbox was full of shit, and Coach Longo's, and everybody involved, man. Everybody involved. We just got, shit talked to, and the reality is, no one did anything wrong, right? It was just, I think, a lot of the perception that came after the fight, and Aljo kind of turned into this heel. But I think a lot of people forgot how good this guy really is. He didn't just scoot into a title opportunity. He was winning on some of those scorecards in the first fight with Petr Yan. So for us, we gained a lot of valuable experience in that first camp and understanding what we didn't do correctly, what we needed to do better, what Yan did really well. There was a lot of things that I think that you can coin as excuses, but they were really relevant with his neck injury. If you watch him on some of those takedowns in the first fight in the Apex, he couldn't get his footing correctly, and there's just a lot of things that were just bad luck variables. And credit to Petr Yan in that fight. He started to come on strong. He was going to win that fight, and Aljo has no problem admitting that. It was starting to go downhill. But now we were able to go back to the drawing board. And so, just to kind of give you guys an idea, Aljo and I sat down. He went over all of his notes on his own, watched the fight on his own, came back to me with a bunch of notes. I did the same, came back to him with a bunch of notes, and we went and kind of crossed and compared on what the good and the bad and what we're going to do in this camp. So he spent 6 weeks out here, the first 6 weeks with us, getting his camp organized and kind of getting the meat and potatoes together. And then he went home and finished up the last 6 weeks with Coach Longo and everybody back in Long Island. And those guys really just kind of put a cap on the rest of the things that we were doing, man, and just put an exclamation point on it, right? Then he went out to Jacksonville and executed everything perfectly. And it was just like, we just laughed about this 2 days ago. It was Joe got some work in, and I said, man, it's nice. We take a picture now, and there's not a bunch of fucking clown faces in the comment section, or a bunch of this or talking shit, because he shut everybody up and he went out and did his job. So, I was super proud of him and everything that he did, and all the boys back in Long Island they put together, and he came out victorious.
100%. Look, Eric, I wanted to ask you, man, obviously the great Francis Ngannou has been out with an injury since his successful title defense against Cyril Gane. We just wanted to ask for a bit of an update on Francis. How's he doing physically and mentally, and how's that recovery coming along?
Man, he's doing great, and unfortunately, this is like the last thing anybody wanted was a stagnant heavyweight division with the champion, and this turned out to be just an unfortunate turn of events with the injury. But it's been some kind of much deserving time for him, and he's been going back home a lot and spending time with family. He comes back to Vegas. He gets some rehab work in. He has a physical therapist that he hired on out in Cameroon, so he's getting his physical therapy work there. He was home for a little bit, and then he's now back in Cameroon to finish up the rest of August, and he'll be back home in September, and then we're going to get right back to work. So he got cleared to hit pads last time he was home. So we're assuming when he gets back this next time in September, he should be cleared for full contact.
Yeah, awesome. So, Eric, there is a popular video circulating of Chris Curtis and the 200-0 undefeated street fighter getting into some rounds. So, look, I was just wondering if you could speak on that experience a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this guy, he called the gym, and his first set of dialogue was our front desk lady, Soso. And Soso is like our mom. She's a Hawaiian woman who both of her daughters train here. She's been a part of Extreme Couture herself for a long time, and she's one of our just beloved employees. And the guy was kind of I didn't like his attitude on the phone with her and the way he was talking to her. And, you know, I'm a dad of daughters, and, you know, I cherish my mom and I cherish the females in my life. And the way he was approaching her really set me off. And I said, look, man, you're not going to talk to any female like that in my gym or anybody around me that's a part of my family. You know, if you want to come in and you want to show us how badass you are, then come in and sign the waiver, and I'll put you with some fucking badass dudes, you know? And so Chris Curtis him and I were hitting pads that day. And this guy showed up from Fresno. He actually drove out from Fresno and was standing watching me and Chris hit pads. And I didn't know who the guy was. And finally I was like, yo, can I help you? And he's like, yeah, I'm so-and-so. How do I get in on this? I was like, get in on what? Like for pads? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, no. I want to fight UFC. And anytime you hear somebody say fight UFC, I was like, oh, you want to fight MMA? No. I want to fight UFC. I'm like, all right, bro. You know, it's like, I want to play NFL. Yeah. You want to play football, idiot. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So right then and there, I knew the guy was a clown. And then I put it all together that this was the guy that was calling on the phone and talking all this shit. So Chris and I just said, hey, practice is at 3:30. If you want to come back for practice, bring your gear. He goes, oh, I don't have any gear. Like, you drove all the way from Fresno, but you don't have any gear? He goes, why fight in the streets? And I'm like, here we go. So with a little bit of deliberation on what we wanted to do and the right approach, Chris had actually had to pull out of the Dricus Duplessis fight because he had broken his wrist. And I said to him, Chris goes, well, I'll spar him. I go, you got a broken wrist. He goes, dude, if I can't beat this guy with one arm, then I deserve to be in the UFC. So I go, look, man, I don't want this to be like, you know, a bad beating or an ass whooping. We don't need that. We don't even need that look. But if you want to go in there and play and touch spar with this guy and just kind of show him up a little bit, because back in the heyday, Jay Haran and Pyle and those guys, they would have left your ass dead on the fucking mats. They wouldn't give a shit. But we also didn't need that. I didn't need that look. So when you watch the whole video, Chris is playfully sparring with this guy, but just outclassing him, you know?
He's being very gentle.
Very gentle. And we could have very easily put him with Sean Strickland in this conversation.
I was thinking that. Yeah.
Very different, man. And actually, Sean's mad. Sean's like, you're going too easy on him, Chris. And we told him, I said, Chris, you can go as hard as you want to his legs, and you can go as hard as you want to his body. Just don't knock this dude out. Like, I don't need this guy to have a concussion or lose his job. And, you know, and the guy was talking to us in the beginning, and he was like, yeah, I'm a construction worker. I drive tractors, and I this and I that. And Chris even said to me before, he's like, man, this guy's going to go home to a 9 to 5. We don't need to knock this guy out, and he can't provide for his family. Yeah. Right. So that's when you saw the rounds, and they were very lighthearted and him playing and touching the body. And then what really pissed off Chris was after the rounds, the guy starts talking shit. He's like, yeah, you know, I smoke cigarettes and my cardio, but if I was in shape, I would have beat your ass. And Chris is like, what? Yeah. Now you're really fucking pissing me off. Get your ass back in the cage. So it was just some good fun and games for us. And at the end of the day, we get that. I think all gyms get that. I think every MMA gym in the country gets those guys that come in and they're going to be the next whatever it may be. And then you get guys who are just super nice, super cool, and we take care of those guys. They come in and, you know, we're not going to try to hurt them, but in this particular instance, we also weren't trying to hurt this guy, but we wanted to show him, you know, who was the you know, the apex predators in the streets, if you will, you know.
100%. Eric, I saw a quote from Six Gun Brandon Gibson the other day speaking on John's return, and, you know, to paraphrase, was saying that it would be spectacular, and it's nice to see that respect and admiration between coaches. With, you know, I saw you commenting saying that you guys go for drinks afterwards, and Brandon said for sure. So that fight with John, that fight with John would obviously no doubt be the biggest fight in heavyweight history, and obviously there is a lot of moving parts that would have to be ironed out before that fight ever got made. Are you still hoping that fight can get made one day, or is it more of a one step at a time case?
Well, you know, this was something that we all thought was going to be before the Gane fight, right? After Stipe, the timelines, and there was a lot of things, just like you said too, Josh, a lot of moving parts, right? And when Francis beat Cyril Gane, the four of us went to dinner: Hunter, Dana, Francis, and myself. And there was a lot of questions, I think, that we asked that were about how come this fight didn't formulate. And there was a lot of things on their end as the promotion that they couldn't get to John Jones. They couldn't get anything done because Francis is like kind of mad at the UFC, thinking the UFC was the reason why there's things that couldn't be done. And they explained to us that, look, there was a lot of things we couldn't even get a hold of John Jones during this time, or we couldn't get a hold of him this, or we couldn't get a hold of managers. He was going in between management and everything else. So that I think helped us understand where John Jones was at with it. And furthermore, that is the fight to make. It really is. I think it's Stipe because he is, in my opinion, the greatest heavyweight to ever do it. And then there's John Jones, who is pound for pound the best fighter to ever do it, in my opinion. So you have 1A and 1B, and you can interchange it any way you like. But if and when we do get back, I hope it is against John Jones. We've already competed against Stipe, and I want to compete against who, in my opinion, one of the best coaches in the game in Brandon Gibson, one of the best pound for pound fighters ever to do it in John Jones. And look, man, we're all just trying to get the bag, get paid, and go compete against one of the best guys ever do it.
And I think that kind of touches on one of the core aspects of martial arts, which is wanting to compete and test yourself against the best to just see how good you are. So, Eric, one of your tweets prior to the Cruz knockout is obviously circulating, which was calling the left high kick. Looking at Cruz specifically, while there are benefits to that loose evasive movement that a fighter like Cruz employs, do you think that there's just too significant of a loss in defensive viability in today's MMA landscape where everyone is at such a high level?
Yeah, that's a good read on your part too, Alex. I think because both guys fighters now are so very good at hitting from both stances. So what you're implying is that maybe a few years ago versus an orthodox fighter, Cruz is dipping to that side and might let him get away with some of that stuff because, guys aren't switching stances as much, right? The other thing too, I think we have to keep in mind is the proximity to the cage. When Cruz was doing that, he was putting himself basically in a choke point in the cage where he had no way to lean backwards. He was kind of stuck. So the only way he did have to lean was to that lead side of Cheeto, or actually it was the rear side because he was southpaw. Right. And then that kick was able to open up and he was dipping kind of into that kick. And the one movement pattern that I think for me, I was just sitting there watching the fight, right? I wasn't breaking it down. It just kept continuing to be the same movement pattern of him dipping off to that rear side, his rear side, right? Cruz's rear side. But what he was doing was every time when he would throw a right cross or right overhand, he would also roll through into a southpaw stance to the left hook. Yeah. But what he was doing, that he was stepping off perpendicular. He wasn't attacking at a 45-degree angle. He was stepping off. And then that angle, the way he was stepping off was really walking him into the left kick rather than the left hook. When you roll into that left hook side underneath it, you also have the ability to hit your fit in or your knee tap or your high crotch or your single leg, right? Yep. When you go off to that proximity, that side, that left kick is going to be really, really relevant for a guy who can pick up that movement pattern.
Eric, obviously, the great Cody Garbrandt has been a new addition to Extreme Couture for a little while now, and it's obviously a big asset to any gym having Cody. He's a wonderful fighter. Can you speak to the experience of working with Cody? As I do think some people forget that he really is a rare talent in MMA.
He's got some of the best vision I've seen, right? Like the guy, when he's in a flow state and he's seeing things thrown at him, he's able to actually just way he sets everything up. Right, when he kind of gets in that flow state that we saw him in with Dominic Cruz. But a lot of that, I think, just comes with confidence and just being able to get in there and actually slow the game down and see those things coming at him. I think the other thing that people forget about is really how good of a wrestler he is. Yeah. And his base has been a lot of great wrestling. So, he comes from a great camp in Teen Alpha Male. He came over here because a family situation where he was able to move out here. He trains a lot with us over at Extreme Couture. He trains a lot with Dewey Cooper as well, my partner in crime when it comes to Francis Ngannou. He's at the PI quite a bit. He's over at Project Wellbeing. So I think for Cody, the main thing for me is him and I are friends first. And I just want to give him all of these options to find what suits him the best. Whether it's me, whether it's Coach Giff, Eddie, Dewey, I don't really care what you decide on. But stick with something that's going to be relevant to you and your growth and making you better as a martial artist. So that's really been the thing for me, is just exposing him to new ideologies and new looks. Unfortunately for me, I actually have Jeremy Kennedy and Max Roscoff that same night for Bellator. And Jeremy Kennedy is a guy I've been working with for years. So we want to make sure that Cody's taken care of, that he has the coaching staff that he wants and needs. He has the camp that he wants and needs, that when he goes out and fights Ron Yayan on October 1st. But I'll be in Long Beach with my guys over there as well. So we just want to make sure he's squared away.
Yeah, for sure. So, Eric, we've seen some divisions like flyweight and bantamweight really get revitalized by an influx of new talent and also a renewed interest from the fans in those lighter divisions. Is there a division either in the UFC or Bellator, or ONE or PFL that you really feel like is on the verge of popping off in popularity to the fans?
I love what Bellator's doing in their bantamweight division right now, and a guy that I got to work with and he's coming back is Rafion Stops. What Rafion has been able to do at the 135-pound division of Bellator. You got Tiger, you got Magomed right over there. You got Patchy Mix, who also trains at Extreme Couture. He's on the other side of the bracket. So he's got the Jake Shields and Nate Pettit. Rafion has me and his guy. So you got this bantamweight division, right? Sabatella, who we're fighting next, and then let's not forget the guy who's the champion, and Sergio Pettis. Yeah. So there's a lot of depth and talent at that 135-pound division over at Bellator. I think the 170-pound division in the UFC with these young guys coming up through, and Rachmanov and Khamzat,
Sean Brady.
Man, and Sean Brady has kind of been the forgotten talent in that division, but he is the boogeyman lurking underneath that door. So, you got Bilal Muhammad and him. I think that's going to be a great fight on October 22nd. There's so many really good things that you can interchange that division. Bilal came off a great victory against Luque, right? So you got all this stuff kind of shaking out in the welterweight division, and again, big title fight coming up this weekend.
Yep, 100%. Look, Eric, last one from us, man. We don't keep you too long because we always appreciate and value your time very much. So, last one I want to say to you is, I love your Instagram, but sometimes, man, you give me the biggest bit of FOMO. When I click on your story, you're making a goddamn barbecue with brisket or steaks, ribs. Because by the time you're having dinner, it's early afternoon. It's that time where you want to eat something, and I click off going, God damn it, I'm hungry now. So when's the Eric Nicksick barbecue rub coming out, man? Because if it's coming out, I'm buying it.
Man, that's something I've been talking about. I'm linked up with Traeger. Traeger's one of my sponsors.
Yeah.
I'm not even joking, fellas. I had tears in my eyes when that thing showed up to my house, and I'm putting this Traeger together in my garage, and my wife comes down the garage, and I'm like, baby, we made it, baby.
We did it. We did it.
We made it. We did it, honey. And if you guys don't have a Traeger or access to a smoker, it is one of the funnest things. It makes you feel like you're the best cook in the world. Yeah. You can't fuck anything up on a Traeger. Yeah. I do eggs, man. I do my eggs and bacon on my Traeger. I love that thing, and I'm on that thing at least 3 nights a week if I had the choice. So it's one of my favorite pastimes is barbecuing, man. I love it.
Awesome, Eric. Look, man, we always, like I said, we always appreciate and value your time very much. 2 guys from Australia, you give us the chance and the opportunity to talk to us, so we always appreciate it very much. Very much. Well, appreciate your insight.
Before you guys go, I want to hear what you guys got on main event, co-main event this week. Give me those.
Ooh. Well, main event, I actually think I'm going to back Leon Edwards. I really feel like he can get it done. I feel like a lot of people are overlooking his ability to switch stances, and I feel like they're both good there. I just feel like Leon's going to get it done. I just got a feeling about it. And the co-main, I'm going to have to go with Costa.
Yeah. See, with me, I'm going to go Costa for the co-main, only because I think Luke's been out for so long that I don't know how that he come back. I mean, he might come back and be fine, but that's just me basing off his activity level. And I think
recency bias, right?
Yeah, bit of recency bias in that, and I think for me, I think Usman is a special talent. He is a Francis Ngannou type special talent where he'll be a once in a generation type fighter. I think obviously you got a guy like McGregor who's a star, but as a fighter, I think Usman is like a GSP, an Anderson Silva, a John Jones, that type of fighter where he's just that good and will find a way and he'll improve after every single fight. But it's going to be tough to beat that man one day.
If you give me a path to victory for each guys, give me a path to victory for Usman, give me a path to victory for Leon.
Path to victory. Path to victory for Leon. I actually feel like in the clinch, I know, and even though Usman has obviously the superior wrestling, I feel like in the clinch there are some weapons that Leon could use to maybe get Usman thinking twice about the takedown. I think it's going to be from sticking to the outside and trying to get Usman to maybe fall into that trap that wrestlers who start to get some knockouts fall into, where they fall in love with their hands. I think if you can get Usman to fall into that trap, he has a pretty good shot, because I think Leon's faster. I think Leon's faster.
I'm going to say Usman by decision. I just think it's maybe a similar fight to a Colby fight, where Colby might be, considered a pretty good striker, or a Jorge Masvidal, where he's a pretty good striker, where I think his striking's got so much better now, where, maybe this fight might have happened 2 years ago. Leon Edwards has very good striking, but I feel like Usman's caught up in a lot of areas, and especially in the striking. So I think it could be a 5-round slug on Mount White. I do think it goes to a decision, though, in all honesty, I think. But it looks maybe
I'm with you. I think both of you are very right in a lot of regards in this fight. In obviously the assessment of Leon Edwards, he's gotten so much better over this 7 years since they fought. It's been a while, right? Both of them have equally gotten so much better. The one thing that I think that really stands out to me is, has Kamaru fallen in love with his striking to the point where he's forgot about his wrestling? Does this come out and does he threaten the element of wrestling, right? And if I'm in the Usman camp, I think you come out right away, and I think you got to put a little wrestling in Leon's head. You got to make him think early that, man, this might be 5 rounds of him trying to wrestle me. So what does that do to your striking if you're Kamaru Usman? Then your relevancy to your level change has a lot of validity. Makes him worry about it. It also puts that blood into the arms, and you make him pummel, and you make him dig underhooks, you make him lift him and do all those things. So I'm kind of from the camp from both of you guys in the regards of, is this a letdown game, right? Is this a kind of where Kamaru didn't take it as serious as he should, and Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena, right? Yeah. Is this an upset brewing kind of vibe to it? I agree with you, Alex. I can see that too, but I'm also in the camp of where Josh's head's at, where, okay, maybe this is a 2-2 going into round 5.
Yeah.
And you go at that champion pedigree who also trains at altitude, right? He's in Salt Lake City, altitude's high there, and he has the one thing that you can always lean on, your cardio and your wrestling. I say one thing, it's 2 things, but cardio and wrestling go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
And then in the co-main event, I think you guys are all right there. But Luke Rockhold, if you're a bettor, you got a lot of value coming back on a guy who has the skill set to win on the feet and on the floor. If he decides to include some of his wrestling. And you got a guy in Paulo Costa where when Uriah Hall fought Paulo Costa, I had big red writing that said, do not put your back to the cage. And I wrote it again. Do not put your back to the cage. That's where this guy, the eraser, comes out. Paulo Costa puts dudes away when you back yourself up to the cage. So to your guys' point, if Luke Rockhold fights for that center mass and stays long and uses his range, but when distance is closed, if he's able to get a takedown or two and Rockhold can get on top of you, he can cook some time. Remember, this is a 3-round fight.
Yeah.
He can just sit on top side half guard and melt this guy and take his time. And then slowly, inch away at some ground and pound and get your back given up. And then all of a sudden he's on your back. You're like, God damn it. He's sinking in his choke. And so I'm with you. I think when you think about Paulo Costa and what he's been doing as of late, he should go out and bully this guy and put him in the cage and get a finish. But man, Luke Rockhold has forgotten talent. Don't forget his last fight against Jan Blachowicz. He was minus 250. Right, the odds makers all thought that he was going to go out there and steamroll through Jan Blachowicz. In the fight before that against Yoel Romero, he was minus 180. Right, so he hasn't been around for a while, but this motherfucker still got some skills.
100%.
No, for sure.
Eric, once again, man, we appreciate it. You give us your time. We really, really, really appreciate it, man. We look forward to chatting again soon. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the fights. And if you cook any barbecue, man, save some for us. For God's sake.
I'll tag you guys next time.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate it, bro.
My pleasure, fellas. We'll talk soon.
Easy. Awesome. Thanks, man.